Hello, I'm Amanda, and today we are going to be making banoffee pie. Banoffee pies are a wonderful layered dessert. We start with that graham cracker crust, and we top that with a caramel. I happen to make my own, or you can do store-bought. Then we have our banana layer. On top of the bananas, we make a whipped cream, and to top it all off, we have our chocolate. We're going to go ahead and put these in here. I love using mini everything. When I was living abroad in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, a lot of their desserts were small. Part of that, I think, is just that culture doesn't do a whole lot of sweets and desserts, and when they do, they like small little ones. And so I think part of that just kind of shifted its way over to myself. So what we're doing is I'm putting them in here and I'm scrunching them down into my small little mason jars. So you can see here. Do this, you can see everything's getting smushed down. In here, my graham cracker filling, I have smushed up graham crackers, about 4 teaspoons of butter, and then about 2 spoonfuls of brown sugar. And because I love cinnamon, I also put in about a half teaspoon of cinnamon as well. Tasted the whole thing and then added another little pinch of cinnamon. So part of the reason I'm making this for you today is to show you that I'm really good at intricate details. One of the things I strive myself on is kind of being a slight perfectionist a little bit in the kitchen and making something like this, something that has these finite layers, something that when you look at it, you see those layers. It just looks beautiful. So I'm using these jars so that when you look at it on the side, you can see all the layers in here. So first layer done. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the second layer. So the second layer is our caramel layer. Now I made this a couple months ago. I have some uncles who live in Canada and they came back to the States to visit. And I promised them a Thai night. So I made tom kha soup, which is a coconut soup, and banoffee pie because I was introduced to banoffee pie while living in Thailand. And so I made it for them. And so I specifically made homemade caramel while they were here visiting. So it was a long process. If you've never made homemade caramel before, I did the long way. So I did the sweetened condensed milk route, where I put it in the oven for about 3.5 to 4 hours, came and checked on it every 30 to 45 minutes, gave it a little stir, did the double bath where I put it, I made sure it had enough water. It was a long process, but it turned out, and I was so happy with myself. It was amazing. I loved it. So anyway, I still have a little bit of caramel left over from that, so I'm going to be using my caramel. Right, so now with a tinier spoon, what I like to do is I go in, see they're just kind of globbed in there. What I do is I go in and I make sure that it's all the way around the inside here. Make sure it gets evenly distributed. It's a lot easier when your caramel is fresh because it's easier to move around. Alright, as you can see, like in this one, you can start to see in the layers here a little bit. You do that so you can see the layers starting to come in there. Let these guys set. So what I'm going to do is stick these in the fridge while I get the rest of the layers set and ready to go. When I was first introduced to banoffee pie, I was living in Nong Khai, which is in northern Thailand. And on the weekends, my wife and our friend Roxy and I would go around to the different coffee houses and try the different banoffee pies. And it was kind of like almost a little competition between the different places to be like, who has the best banoffee pies. And it was a lot of fun. And so making this, it kind of brings me back to those days when we'd all get on our
our one moped. I did not drive. Our friend Roxy did not drive, but my wife drove. So the three of us, 3 girls, 1 moped, we'd get on our moped and we'd drive around to the coffee shops and we'd get they'd get their coffee, I'd get my tea, and we'd try our Banoffes and we'd rate them. I don't know if we ever came up with our favorite, but I definitely learned that I love Banoffes, and I knew eventually I would have to come up with what my favorite Banoffe was.
I like to make sure that my whipped cream is not super sugary, mainly because there's already sugar in the graham cracker crust. There's already a lot of sugar in the caramel. So I'm going to make sure that my whipped cream does not have a lot of sugar. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get some heavy whipping cream in our bowl. Just make sure it's still good. It's still good. I'm going to start with just 1/4 of sugar, not a whole lot. Let's start whipping. Before our whipped cream is actually going to go into our little mason jars, we're going to cut up our banana. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and slice up this banana. I'm going to slice it up pretty fine, and I'm actually going to, after I slice it, I'm going to cut it in half so that I can get more bananas than inside of the little containers. So this is about how thick I like to cut them, not super thick. Then what I've done is I've go ahead and chopped them in half in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of these in. As you can see here, kind of fanned it out nicely there. And if we look on the sides here as well, you can see, do this instead. You can see our graham cracker layer, our caramel layer, and our banana layer. Oh, nice with that one. All right. So our next step, we are going to go ahead and add the whipped cream I just made to the Banoffes. So again, like you guys should probably know, nice and slow with the piping, making sure you're at a 90-degree angle. You're gonna make sure you go to the top. I like to start in the middle with these ones. And kind of bring it back to the middle. Giving it a nice little peek in the center. Now we are finally on to our last little bits here. Just kind of basically making the tops of these look pretty. This is where we add our chocolate. So I like to use unsweetened chocolate. Again, I'm a weirdo. I tend to use this because we've already used enough sweetened things. Why add another one? If you don't like it, don't use it. I like it, so I use it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and kind of dice it up a little bit. I'm using probably nibs. I think that's a good way to call this. We're going to go ahead and take our little things. And we're going to top them off here. We don't need a ton. And voila, we have our beautiful Banoffe layers. As you can see, I have beautiful layers here. I nailed the layers. They worked perfectly today. So happy with myself. So again, this is my finished Banoffe pie. I'm Amanda. Thanks for tuning in.